What is going on, everyone? Welcome to my review for Star Wars: The Clone Wars Episode 5.13, Point of No Return. This is the fourth and final part in the D Squad arc, following the events of capturing the Encryption module, crashing on Abafar, this voided planet. Coming up to Commando Gregor, who, sacrifices himself for the droids' escape off the planet, and their escape leads them to the Satan cruiser that was anonymously in orbit of Abafar in the last episode, and now we find out what this cruiser is really for. Now, immediately from last episode, you think the Separatists are trying to blow up this cruiser, that D Squad saved them. It appears that the Separatists were already ahead of them. They already had loaded this cruiser with explosives. Who knows who's already on that cruiser to begin with, but it doesn't matter because, the whole thing's been rigged with rhydonium and it's rigged to blow wherever it may go. So, doesn't matter where the it does matter where the destination is. I was gonna say, where it's going, it's gonna be going someplace to blow up something. You're led to believe throughout the episode that they're going to a fleet, but by the end of the episode, it's actually their public strategy conference, and we see some, um, pretty big people here, like, Anakin, Obi-Wan, of course, but we also see Neo, Rex, Cody, stuff like that. People along those lines. We also see a cameo by Tarkin. Nice to see that he's still floating around in the show. You know, Tarkin, he's a good guy, and it's also cool. I looked on Star Wars trivia. He's now an admiral, so he's definitely ranking his way up. It'd been cooler if they addressed him as Admiral Tarkin somewhere in there, so he would have seemed more suitable. But I'm glad to know Tarkin's working his way up. I thought this episode was actually pretty good. It was a good conclusion to the arc. There's only a few gripes I have about it. But I still like the last episode a little better than this one. Still, this definitely had some great things about it. So let's get into the specifics. The moral of the episode, the Jedi fortune cookie to say that they have at the beginning is, um, without friends, success is impossible. So something along those lines. I believe that's what it has. Um, and that is very good. That definitely fits the, outlet of this episode, and sort of like the outlet of the arc. That you need allies. Without these droids, um, which inevitably blew away Meeber Gascoon from the beginning. Without these droids, that Meeber Gascoon wouldn't be able to complete the mission. Neither would any of the droids. Throughout this arc, we've had the droids seen their tough odds. BZ, who took a beating in the first episode, he jumps out of the hyperspace in this episode along with all the Buzz droids. That was also really awesome to see those Buzz droids. They did a really fantastic job on them. I'm no arguing there. But there's only one. From here we have that, and then R2D2, he takes the fall at the end of this episode. However, he survives. Of course, he's a droid. He can be rebuilt. I was a little worried about his memory banks. Like, all that memory, what did they do with R2? Of course, in A New Hope, he has all that memory still. He keeps his memory all the way. And it reminds me kind of like Duel of Droids, or, that whole Duel of Droids thing where it was about losing R2, downfall of the droid more so. And they were looking through the wreckage. You wonder how many times this happens to Anakin and how much more concerned or worried he gets every time he loses R2. I'm glad they brought that back. It definitely reminded me of Downfall of the Droids. I don't know if they were intending that. Did remind me of Downfall of the Droids. Uh, then there's anyways, moving back on. But after this death and after R2D not his death, after R2D2 and BZ's quote unquote sacrifice, BZ he's a goner. No down there. R2D2 of course they got rebuilt. The whole second half of the episode, which both these things take place in, I do have a problem with. It was really fast. It was fast paced to say. The beginning of this episode, the first half of this episode was nice and even. Moving into the events of what's going on. There's actually survivors on the ship. The droids have taken over the ship. Um, that's another thing. It was nice to see the battle droids without the power packs. The droid pilots, the blue ones with the blue marks on them. Um, that's a nice little reference. I thought have the blue droids that you see in the Revenge of the Sith that don't have power packs. After a while, they're gonna be moving to that where the droids don't need power packs. They just get these power blockades. Um, but that second half of the episode was just skimmed over way too fast. It was kind of like one moment BZ's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself, or it's more like beep boop beep. What, you're gonna sacrifice yourself? It goes from that to he runs through these droids, opens the airlock, he flies at the beam. That it happens almost in an instant. It happens so quickly you don't even realize like, wait, oh no, there goes BZ. And the music in the background, I thought that was bad too. They used music from the Legacy of Terror episode, which had the Geonosian zombies. So that was cool for the buzz droids, but I thought they could have like toned that down and then gone with um this choir sort of esque that they honor characters like what was it, Gregor and 99 with. They didn't have that. It was just goes out the window and Gregor's like, "You made a soldier a sacrifice," and then that droid, the bunny droid's like, "Would you give him some words of honor?" And he's like, "He made a sacrifice. That's what soldiers do." And I'm like, "No, that ruined the episode for me."
You will be missed, soldier.
R2 is right. Colonel, would you say something to honor this heroic sacrifice?
I suppose that's appropriate. I'll have to make it quick because we don't have much time.
Where it's like almost like he says he compares all the droids to soldiers pretty much, which is all right. I mean, he is a very, he is a very military authentic guy despite not having a lot of military experience. He thinks he does have big shoes to fill. So, he definitely has the heart of being a colonel, of being this, this high-ranking military-esque guy. Yet it's just it's their timing was all wrong. Not to mention since the music only kicked on when he was talking. And I'm like, didn't he just give his word for BZ by saying he sacrificed himself for us? And then he goes on to say that's what soldiers do, they sacrifice themselves for us. It's almost like, every time, I don't know how many times Gascon stopped to say, he made a soldier sacrifice in this arc. That's happened like 2 or 3 times. It happened once with Gregor. That's fine. There was a dilemma where last episode he's like, that's what soldiers do. And he keeps repeating the same thing, and it's almost like the dialogue's a bit too dry, a bit too bland. Which is surprising given that we're dealing with characters like Whack and Gascon. The dialogue should never be dry. Unfortunately, he just has a problem with repeating himself. I don't necessarily like it. It's almost like he wants the soldiers to die. He's like, you must die because you're a soldier, not because you sacrifice. No, you must sacrifice yourself because you're a soldier. That's just off. It's like it's disgracing Gregor's death because he gave very little word for Gregor and all. Now he gives his word to BZ. Not to mention R2-D2 made a bigger sacrifice than BZ did. He could have gave the word to R2-D2, or they could have moved this little speech, this victory speech, to the end of the episode. Besides, he's pretty much thanking D Squad before the mission's even done. That's what happens when BZ dies and BZ goes away and he's just giving out speech. And this plan to, get off the ship and prevent it from exploding is a little too abrupt. It's like, okay, here's the plan. R2-D2 is gonna go to the bomb, deactivate it, and hopefully make it back to the shuttle in time. It's almost it's like, don't even care about approving it or arguing it. Everyone's like, okay, and the same goes on. I mean, R2 still survives, but the moment where you realize, oh no, R2's fried, and then 2 seconds later, oh, he's back to normal, and you're like, it's almost like his death was nothing. It's like, okay, we need to bring him back to life. We need to have someone make a sacrifice. And this leads me to believe that probably Gascoon or Whack will come back again since they didn't kill him off. There's obviously a reason they're keeping them alive. I mean, they keep the strangest characters on this show alive. I don't even know, but I just think that they paced over that way too much. Still, the most phenomenal thing I think I've ever seen on the show was that explosion. That was mind blowing. It's like all of the colors that you can ever imagine, plus more colors that you didn't even think was possible, in this fantastic, almost real-life explosion in outer space from a spaceship. I mean, even after that, you're just like, holy nutballs, this is amazing. My my face melted off. I always say that, but my face really did melt off when I saw this explosion. It's not only the explosion, but the debris, which was the most amazing part of it. All this debris hits the station at one angle where you see the side of the ship and all the debris is just flying at it when it rocks the ship with like this after effect. It is just fantastic. That is probably one of the biggest, oh no, it is the biggest explosion. One of the most amazing things I've seen on this show. Definitely the greatest thing the animators have ever achieved. The Big Bang, if it's a way of saying you thought we weren't being serious with these characters like Whack. You thought this wasn't a serious thing. Well, guess what? We just stepped it up. We just gave you the biggest explosion you'll ever see on a TV show, on an animated TV show. Um, Bigger than a Michael Bay explosion to say.
And you thought this conference would be boring.
I am officially amazed. You'd think it couldn't get even more explodey. I could go on and on about how awesome this explosion was, but I'm gonna leave it there. One other thing I want to mention, you know, kind of how it kind of makes the arc feel really complete, is a message that they're trying to decrypt but couldn't because of the encryption module in the first episode, Secret Weapons. The message that they're trying to decrypt, which came from, I believe, General Grievous. Um, was this plan to have this cruiser um, fly into have this cruiser fly into the Republic Strategy Conference, because it all makes sense because Gascoon is organizing the conference, so he would have known, and the characters at the conference would also know as well, and it all connects. I really think it links back to the arc, and it was a really, actually quite clever plot now you think of it. So that about wraps up this episode, and my thoughts on the D Squad arc. It was, you can't really, I'm sorry to say that it wasn't exactly, it was a change of pace from the Youngling arc. It did have a lot of silly moments, especially the ending where Gaskin's almost crying. I'm like, that's a pretty lame joke. That's like something you see on SpongeBob, like, we're gonna work together for the rest of the day, Squidward, and Squidward's crying, if you know what I'm talking about. But besides that, it had some silly humor, though. The humor in the first episode, humor in the first and two episodes were very well timed. We had some awesome characters like Gregor, um, who's very memorable. We had some of the two most memorable characters on the show so far, Gascoon and Whack, and the biggest explosion you'll ever see on this show. And it makes it all feel complete with the encryption module having this whole thing together. And it was surprising to see that you could get so much entertainment out of a droid arc. Um, with that, if you add up all the scores, the estimated score for this arc would be 8 out of 10. That's actually pretty surprising. I didn't think my score would add up like that. Oh yes, I can't believe I didn't even mention it. A rating for this episode was 8 out of 10. I did enjoy it. The second half kind of messed it up. If it wasn't for the second half, I probably would have. If they kind of slowed down the second half and gave it made it more memorable, I probably would have given this an 8.5 out of 10. It was very interesting arc. Really looking forward to next week when we have, I believe it's called Eminence. Yeah, Eminence, and that's the Death Watch Darth Maul team up. I'm really pumped to see how it's gonna go. If all this fanatically drastic hype, that's not only been, that not only derives from the fans of the show, but it's also deriving from Dave Filoni himself. I remember the video I had last week had him saying, man, when Darth Maul comes, man, they'll need him more than ever. And I'm very curious to see how that's gonna go down. So thank you for watching. Tell me what you thought of this episode in the comments below. What did you think of the D Squad arc overall? What was your favorite episode in this arc? And what are your thoughts for the Darth Maul arc that's gonna come up? So I thank you for watching. Check my other videos upcoming and prior to, and I'll be seeing y'all later.
You dagger. We will take your heroic story back to the Republic, and we will watch for your return.
Whoa.